We are talking about this amazing spike in rent prices.
Yes.
That has happened in the US since COVID.
Yes.
Why is that happening?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a lot that has gone into that. It first starts with an undersupply of housing. And we talk about this a lot because an undersupply of housing is what keeps a high floor for home prices. And it also keeps a high floor for rents. And it goes a little bit farther than that when you think about what's actually happened with home prices and rents as well. You have that high floor, but when you start to sprinkle in the amount of money that was injected into the economy over the past 3 years, 4 years now, you start to understand why prices, not just rent prices, not just home prices, but prices on everything across the board started to raise incredibly high at rates that we haven't seen in 40 years. So it's a combination of those two things. It is low supply of housing, and then you filled the bank accounts of Americans by a lot of either stimulus or Fed activity to pump more money into the economy. And that's a combination for prices on many products and services to go up, rents being one of them.
Yeah. So one of those things is same reason why there's inflation.
Yes.
Right. And the other is a chronic issue that we see as kind of like the information advantage for rental home investors. It's that the untold story here is that there's an undersupply of single family homes in large cities, and specifically an undersupply of workforce housing in growing, thriving cities that, when you look at supply and demand, the laws of economics say that if there is not enough supply for the demand there, prices go up.
Exactly.
Right? So we're going to dive into exactly how much they've gone up and what it all means and how much longer it's going to happen. And just as importantly, is this hurting that workforce resident that needs this asset class to live?
And with that, let's jump into it.
All right, JC. So how high have these prices gone?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Okay, I think I want to just put like a baseline out there of what does a typical rent increase look like in Jacksonville. And we have the benefit of a lot of years to gain perspective here. So I went back from 1985 to 2022. And if you go back those 38 years there, rents increased on average 3.7% per year in Jacksonville, Florida. Some other noteworthy things here. You can start to see, you can take that data and say, okay, what's more likely here? Did they go up 10% some years and did they drop some years? Yeah. Let's get a little bit more insight. So the largest ever annual rent increase on average was 11.9%. And that was in the year 2021.
Makes sense.
What was going on in the economy in 2021?
We had just gotten off the back of COVID, and there was a bunch of cash flow pumped into the economy with the stimuluses. Inflation was raging.
Exactly.
So prices were going up on just about everything, and we were still very low on housing.
So we're connecting the dots on that question that you just asked me about why did rents go up? Well, you can see a combination of stimulus and Fed actions along with low housing supply led to that in 2021. There have only been 2 years where it's been over 10%.
Okay.
In 38 years. You want to guess what those 2 years were?
21 and 20?
2021 and 2022.
Okay.
So it's very not normal for it to be that high.
So outlier, right?
Outliers.
Like those 2 years were outliers of being over 10% rent increase.
Yes.
Right.
But what's not an outlier is that rents go up. So rents actually increased 97% of the years. 37 out of 38 years, rents in Jacksonville have gone up. So when we talk about why this is such a consistent asset class, something you can depend on and rely on, whereas there's other asset classes that you really can't, rents going up in Jacksonville happen 97% of the time.
So 37 out of the 38 years, rent has gone up.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Now, I wanted to see, okay, what's a likely rent increase? So rents increased at least 2% per year on average, 84% of the time. So 32 out of 38 years, rents went up at least 2% or more.
Okay.
So if you're a betting man or woman, you can pretty much bank on that.
You can bank on at least 2% rent increase each and every year.
The data tells us it happens over 8 out of 10 times.
Pretty standard. Okay.
There was only 1 year that rents decreased. There was 1 year that rents decreased. And they only decreased 0.5%. So, and that was in 2010. What happened in 2010?
Great Recession.
It was the Great Recession, right? The Great Recession actually really in real estate lasted from 2007 to 2011.
Yep.
So at the
So the
Great
bottom of the
Recession,
Great Recession.
it dropped 0.5% here in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Actually, over time from 2007 to 2011, in the depths of the Great Recession, rents actually went up in Jacksonville if you look over that time period. So you can kind of see what the downside risk of decreases of rents are, and it is incredibly rare for rents to go down in Jacksonville. In fact, across the entire country, rents have never decreased on record for the entire country.
Got it. So if what we are talking about here is how long is this party going to last of rents going up? And that's the question. It sounds like the party's here to stay, right? Like, or it's likely that that party happens every single year. And the party, while it's not going to be a rager every single year like it was in 2021 and 2022, where rents went up 10% plus, it seems like a nice little get together every single year of good friends, a nice little barbecue
Normalization
of what looks like 3.7% per year on average is a very reasonable thing to expect. And it's very unlikely that it's going to be less than a 2% increase because that generally happens. And it's going to be really, really shockingly unlikely that nobody shows up to the party.
Exactly. And if you guys, were wondering a year ago why I said, listen, I think rents are going to go up in 2023. We were one of the only, I don't know what you call us, media outlets to actually say that and put our name on it. Well, the reason is because I know how unlikely it is for rents to go down. And I also know what low supply we have for housing. So helps you to get kind of inside our heads a little bit. And then of course, rents have gone up in 2023 in Jacksonville. We're still waiting on the final numbers, but somewhere around 2 to 3% is where it's going to be for rent growth in 2023 on the heels of unprecedented rent growth in 2021 and 2022.
Got it. So rents are going to continue to go up in the short term.
Yeah, that's what we're expecting.
Okay.